This is Navigate with Idy, brought to you by Corporate Shepherds.
Welcome, my dear friends and very distinguished listeners to Navigate with Idy. This is your business school on radio. Friends, what a day, what a time, as we are looking at this beautiful week that we've laid aside to talk about preparing for the future. Recall that I did say to you on Tuesday that this month had a theme of cultivating a grateful and purposeful life. In the first week, we looked at the power of gratitude and happiness. And in the second, we looked at the journey so far, meaning lessons learned, growth achieved, and areas for improvement. This week, we have opted to look at the strategic planning sequence for personal and professional growth. And this is all embedded in preparing for the future, talking about vision, talking about goals, and talking about action. And to make this well-rounded, building on what we started on Tuesday, I have my friend and brother, Doyin Oluwole, to join me as we look at this collectively and possibly also prepare the wind down for the last week, which will be about cultivating hope and renewal. That's for next week. But this week, just to close today, we'll be talking about preparing for the future. Doyin, you're welcome once again to Navigate with Idy.
Thank you so very much, Idy. It's always a pleasure to be here.
In that same context, you realize that in being able to shape or take a peep or preparing for the future, it's important that one looks at where he or she is now. So, where are you now? And on Tuesday, I did ask some questions. I said, especially for those that are in some beautiful career or generally looking at life, there may have been situations within the course of the year where you may either have had a major life-changing event, a corporate restructure at work. Amidst all of this frantic pace of our lifestyles and everything, there is that never-ending wave of change. But you can't help but ask yourself, is this what I really want for my life? That was the crevice on which I asked some questions which I put on the table, and I said folks should really look at it. For example, I said, think about the question, do you find your career fulfilling? Where is your career now? Are you feeling satisfied? Are you finding it? Are you stuck? What are the major stresses in your life? How is your life in balance? Or how is your life out of balance? What are you passionate about? And where does that passion show up in your life? What areas of your life occupy the most time and how does that feel? These are many more were the things that I highlighted, and I went straight into what I call the key goal areas. So, and those goal areas for me, I'll consider to be the major headers that I suggested that people should look at in preparing for the future. Number one, I talked about health and physical well-being and outlined a few indices of that. I talked about relationships, talking about family, social life, and all. I talked about lifelong learning, and I talked about finances, and in a lesser but important note, rest and recreation, adventurous travel, hobbies, relaxation, etc. So, it would be nice to pick your brains around that because we are trying to be very practical here. And in 2025, very many people are going to start typically, trying to put together, what do I do next year? How do I go take this year and morph into next year? This is just a way of shaping the minds of people and letting them go on a straight and narrow. So by taking stock of life, the intent behind this is not to prescribe a way of life or prescribe the answers. We are not God. I am not God, certainly not. But you know that wisdom is profitable to direct. But one may be able to say, if you stay around these major pillars, then you can put a structure around the goals you want for your life, and it may help you in getting to that place called there. So, I yield the floor to you to give your thoughts on this and how we'll take it forward.
Yeah, thank you, ID. Thank you so very much. Where I think we should start from, and everyone should start from, is to know where you're going. And that is to ask yourself that question: where do I want to be? You need to know where you want to be. If you don't know where you're going, you're not going anywhere. And so that will lead to the next second key question, which is, where am I now? It is when you know where you are and where you want to be that you can begin to make progress. If you do not even know where you are at this point in time, then there might be, serious issues. And then the third question, which is what applies to our program today, is, how do I get there? So for those who are looking at next year, 2025, and they're looking at doing great things, they're looking at improving, on their lives, on work, on career, the first thing is to be able to map out. You must be able to map it out to say, where do I want to get to? Where exactly am I going? What is my idea of achievement? What do I want to achieve? Because you might be surprised that these questions might sound so simplistic, but quite a number of people have not answered those questions, yet they're on a journey. So the issue will now be a journey to where exactly? So when we're looking at the third question now, which is, how do I get there? That's when we begin to put the key points, quite a number of them you have already mentioned, in place. Because it is like driving a four-wheeled vehicle, like driving a 4x4. There's no way a 4x4 is going to run on 3 tires. It's not going to happen. There's no way a 4x4, a vehicle, is going to run on 2 tires. When I say a vehicle, I'm talking about a 4x4 as an example now. It's not going to happen. You need to have the 4 tires in place. Not one tire almost deflated. Not one tire completely deflated. All tires must be in good condition. And so that's where we begin to pick on the necessary things so that it can help us to get to our point of destination. 1, health and well-being. I'm going to start with health and well-being deliberately. I'm starting with health and well-being because it is one of the most neglected of the 4 tires, at least in the Nigerian experience. It's one of the most neglected. People always take health and well-being as something to tend to when there is an issue, something to tend to when there is a challenge. If there's no challenge, at least on the surface, you don't need it. Let it be. Just go hustle. Just go, work hard. Just go do what you got to do to make your money and to progress, which is very wrong. Why do I say it's very wrong? There's just one vessel that we have. And that vessel, this vehicle, is what's going to take you to the end of your journey on the planet before you depart. You are not going to get a second body. You are not going to get a second heart. You are not going to get a second brain. You are not going to get a second anything. You are going to learn to manage this vehicle that will take you to your point of destination at the end of the day before you leave the planet. Health and well-being is too important. How do we break that down? We're looking at lifestyle.